Good evening, friends. Welcome to the valedictory session of the KMA Management Week Celebrations 2021. Before we start the formal proceedings, may I request all of you to close your eyes, be seated, and pray to Almighty for an auspicious beginning. Good evening once again and welcome back. This is the 7th day of the KMA Management Week celebrations. The valedictory session about to commence. To start the proceedings, may I request the Chairman of Management Week celebrations, Past President Esg Nair, to welcome the audience sitting here, the dignitaries on the dais as well as on the online platform, and all of you present in this session. Over to Raj Mohan Nair.
President of Kerala Management Association, Mr. Madhav Chandran, Chief Guest of the evening, our young, vibrant Member of Parliament, Sri Ivy Eden, Guest of Honor, Mr. Rajesh Prasad, Keynote Speaker, Dr. Saji Gobinath, who are on the virtual platform, our past President, SR Nair, Senior Vice President, Namala Nindi, other past presidents who are assembled here, students, members of KMA, Managing Committee members, invited guests, a very good evening to you all. And welcome to you all to this valedictory function. It is immense pleasure with gratitude. I am standing here as the chairman of KMA Management Week celebrations. As we all know, this is one of the flagship events of Kerala Management Association, and today's event is the culmination of the week-long endeavor of KMA Management Week celebrations that started on 19th February. As I said in the earlier days, for the last 15 years, All India Management Association and its local management associations have been celebrating the Management Day on 21st of February across the country. This was on the suggestions by the then President of India, late Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. At Kerala Management Association, here, we have extended the Management Day into a week-long celebration since 11 years. And this is the 5th time I became the chairman of this Management Week celebrations. Though we are,
we will give you a pension very soon.
yes, definitely. Though we are in a pandemic situation, we were able to conduct these week-long celebrations with the celebrated speakers and content-rich programs. This year, the theme of Management Week is in line with the annual theme of spearheading responsible management. We had our inaugural session on 19th, last Friday, by our IMA President, Mr. Harshpati Singhania, the Vice Chairman and the Managing Director of JK Papers Limited, and Ms. Rekha Sethi, the Director General of IMA, was also there as the guest of honor. It was a well-attended, enriched, and appreciated program. Friends, as you all know, we had our KMA virtual solo run on 20th and 21st last Saturday and Sunday. It was a huge success, and around 1,000 delegates participated across the globe. Registered delegates from US, UK, Australia, and Middle East participated along with the people from various LMAs all over the country. Congratulations and thank you, the event chair, Mr. Algiers Khalid. The next day on 22nd February, we organized a peaceful challenge, a presentation competition on Union Budget 2021 and its impact on Indian economy. We have received more than 50 registrations and 6 were shortlisted for the final. The result will be declared during this valedictory session. Thank you, Past President Vivek, Secretary Jomon, and the Executive Director, Jojo Jacob, for the excellent conduct of the competition. And on 23rd, we had the inauguration of the Management Students Convention under the chairmanship of Mr. Anil Verma. The convention was inaugurated by Professor Ranjan Banerjee, the Dean of SP Jain Institute of Marketing and Research, Mumbai, and the keynote address was done by our own MC member, Srimati Chalini Vaidya. Over a dozen speakers were there to inspire the delegates with their talented experience and innovations. Thanks to Ms. Indu Nair from SCMS and our own past president, Sri SR Nair, program committee, our own past president and the program committee chairman, Mr. SR Nair, the sessions were well moderated with a lot of great discussions. Happy to note that more than 800 student delegates from different management schools across the state participated through the Zoom platform and the YouTube. It was an opportunity for the student community to listen to such brilliant minds and learn from their vast experience. KMA has been organizing memorial lectures for the past 10 years. Initially, we have started with MKK Nair Memorial Lecture, and now we have added two more. Late K.T. Chandy Memorial Lecture and Professor Dr. M.V. Paili Memorial Lectures. This year, along with the Management Week, yesterday we had Professor Dr. M.V. Paili Memorial Lecture by our former IMA President, Mr. D. Shivakumar, the Group Executive President, Aditya Birla Group. More than 225 delegates attended the session, and it was one of the best lectures we had yet. He explained the nonsense of responsible management and also elaborated on irresponsible management. Thank you, Chair Esg Nair, for arranging this lecture during the Management Week celebrations. And today, you are going to witness the valedictory function of the week-long celebration on physical and virtual mode. Now, let me come to my assigned duty of welcoming the dignitaries of the valedictory function. The young icon of Ernakulam Parliament constituency, Sri Haibi Eden, is here with us as the chief guest for the presentation of the B School Challenge Competition Prize. On behalf of the President and all of us present here in KMA and on the virtual platform, I welcome you, my dear friend, Sri Haibi Eden. And I request our past President, Mr. Dinesh Thambi, please give him a welcome bouquet. Sri Ajay Prasad, the Managing Director and the Country Head, Taurus India, Taurus Investments Holdings, who is now sitting in Boston, USA this morning. Hearty welcome, dear Ajay, for sharing your valuable time as our guest of honor. I take this opportunity to thank my good friend, Mr. Sunil Kumar, the Managing Director of Asset Homes, for connecting us with Mr. Ajay. Once again, welcome you, Ajay. Dr. Sajid Kobina, our own NC member and the brand new Vice Chancellor, Kerala University of Digital Science, Innovation and Technology, is now on the virtual platform for the keynote address. Congratulations, Dr. Sajid, for the new appointment as the newest Vice Chancellor. On behalf of this August Assembly, I welcome you, Dr. Sajid Govindas. Congratulations, my dear young, talented B School Students Competition winners. A special welcome to the valedictory function. Once again, welcome. Dear past presidents, managing committee members, members of KMA, invited guests, students, ladies and gentlemen. I take this opportunity to thank you all for your unstinted support and the participation during all the programs in large numbers in the Management Week celebrations, and I wholeheartedly welcome you all for this valedictory function of KMA Management Week celebrations 2021. I also take this opportunity to thank our President Sri Madhav Chandran for bestowing the chairmanship of the Management Week celebration program, and I believe we have delivered one of the best events. While the curtain comes down for the entire week-long celebrations, I hope all the participants for the various programs of the week had valuable takeaways and an enriching and fulfilling experience. Ladies and gentlemen, I am sure you will have another productive, interesting, and participative sessions today. Once again, thank you all and heartily welcome to this year's Management Week celebrations finale. Heartily welcome to you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Past President Rajmohan Nair. Respected Chief Guest of this year's Kerala Management Association Annual Management Week Celebrations Valedictory Session, our good friend and the respected Member of Parliament, Mr. Valedictory. Our guests of honor, Mr. Ajay Prasad, Country Manager of Taurus Investment Holdings, and Dr. Saji Govinda, our own Managing Committee member and the Vice Chancellor of the Kerala University of Digital Science and Innovation and Technology. Management Week Celebrations Chair, Past President Rajmohan Nair, Program Committee Chair, and Past President Mr. Esg Nair, Senior Vice President Ms. Nirmala Lili, esteemed Past Presidents present here as well as on the online platform, Managing Committee members, members of KMA and other LMAs, our dear student delegates present here as well as on the online platform, members of the media and other invited guests, a very good evening once again to each one of you. It has been a mountain task of holding this Management Week celebrations over the past 7 days. The whole decision and planning to go with the never-before online blitz of an event was taken when we realized that our annual National Management Convention, usually done in this quarter of the year, which sees nearly 2,000 delegates and a much awaited event too in the management circles, may not be getting its real results if we do it on the online platform. So our convention chair and senior vice president, Ms. Nirmala Lili, and the team decided to put it off for now and wait for better conditions to prevail before we decide on the convention dates. With the pandemic holding forth and online meetings being the only possibility, the Management Week Celebrations Chair and our past president, Mr. Rajmohan Nair, seized the opportunity and went all guns blazing to put together a power-packed week of activities where we are seeing over 20 accomplished speakers across these 7 days, as explained by the chair himself. All events and sessions focusing on the annual theme of KMA this year, that is spearheading responsible management. Be it the inaugural session on 19th with the IMA President, Mr. Harshpati Singhania, and the Director General of IMA, Ms. Rekha Sethi, or the first ever virtual solo run of KMA, the HEAL KMA run on 20th and 21st, highlighting the importance of being responsible to oneself first and his healthy habits, or the B-School presentation contest, where entries from over 20 B-Schools showcasing their skills contested for the KMA citation. And we have the winners present here with us now, or the Professor M.V. Piley Memorial Lecture with one of the corporate darlings of our times, Mr. D. Shivakumar, Executive President of Untitled Group, and of course, the much celebrated annual Student Management Convention, where we had 20 corporate and academia doyens speaking to us. Friends, it has literally been an intellectual feast for all of us bettering our management skills and acumen. And now with our MD, Mr. Heidi Eden, and 2 renowned leaders from the corporate world and the academia here with us, this is going to be the icing on the cake. Thank you, past presidents, Mr. Rajmohan Nair, Mr. Esg Nair, KMA Run Chair, Mr. Algiers Khalid, Students Convention Chair, Mr. Anil Verma, Memorial Lecture Chair, Mr. ACK Nair, past president, Mr. Vivek Krishna Govind, Honorary Secretary, Mr. Joman George, Executive Director, Dr. Jojo Jacob, and all other managing committee members and the entire secretariat for this outstanding event organized in such a meticulous manner over the past 7 days. My dear friends, change is a constant phenomenon, and we, the management fraternity, are always trying to keep ourselves updated to the changes that are happening around us continuously. KMA has been there over the 6 decades, helping managers and management students in improvising their learnings and sharing the best of experiences from stalwarts who have made it big in the face of all reverses. In the process, KMA was aiming at equipping management students and managers in facing the rapid changes occurring in the fields of business, profession, management, governance, technology, and even with the changes occurring in the attitudes of businesses, professionals, and governments. We called it as spearheading management education, and later on continued to propagate better practices of management. However, what the world has faced in the last 1 year was something none could easily comprehend or be prophetic about. The changes that struck the world, touching every single entity around us, were unprecedented and most importantly at unimaginable pace. We are all used to changes brought in by technology in the past, redefining the usual management practices in a systematic and time-tested manner. But here, the changes brought in by the pandemic were so swift that none could see what was in store the next day. Businesses and professions have changed substantially. And changes are something which we could not even dream of maybe a year back. The pandemic has sparked a global realization that our current ways of life just does not work. It has broken our perception of what is normal and deconstructed the society as we know it now. Though many businesses and industries have finished or were forced to change the manner in which they did business, the pandemic has also opened up many new avenues to sustain, survive, and to flourish. But to achieve this, one needs to be focused and be continuously updated and upgraded on how these changes are affecting us and our whole environment. This is exactly where organizations like KMA can make a substantial difference in the way in which we develop. All events of KMA are aimed at getting you such inputs that you can derive from the success icons who have made it big in spite of all reverses or are successful in riding even the tides of uncertainties with their wealth of expertise and experience. While the pandemic was changing our lives, KMA decided to form the theme for this KMA year as spearheading responsible management. Spearheading a management culture responsible for our next generation, making them skilled and capable of facing adversities, responsible to molding more women leaders or ensuring gender parity, responsible to our society around us, and responsible to be proponents of our heritage and value systems which will stand any test of time. This is what KMA is emphasizing on its activities during this year, spearheading a management movement of responsible management. And yesterday we heard Mr. D. Shivkumar in his inimitable, crisp and effective manner highlighting the importance of not being irresponsible in management and how to succeed with responsible management. We sincerely hope and pray that this Management Week celebrations over the past 7 days gave our delegates and members enough takeaways in developing their businesses, professions, and careers in the most appropriate manner in these changing times to face all reverses. Thank you all for the overwhelming support and incredible attendance during each event and even today, which made this event a grand success. And let me assure you that this will be an ongoing exercise at KMA, and you can expect even more events in the times to come to keep you agile and educated on the ways forward. Thank you all, and continue to support KMA as always. Thank you so much. Now we have the chief guest for this valedictory session, our own Member of Parliament, the face of Cochin in the country of India, the man who is so charismatic and energetic that he is seen in all the forums, irrespective of the religious, political, or whatever backgrounds we talk about. He is the man for our district, our state, and the young, vibrant MP Heidi Eden. Let me invite him to deliver the inaugural address at this valedictory session. Thank you, Heidi.
The President of the Function, the President of the Kerala Management Association, my close friend, Mr. Valedictory, Chairman for the Management Week celebrations, my dear friend Sri Rajmohan Nair, Vice President of the Kerala Management Association, Srimati Narmada Lily, Country Managing Director, who would address us this evening, Sri Ajay Prasad, Past President of the KMA, Sri S.R. Nair, Honorable Vice Chancellor for the Kerala University of Digital Sciences, Innovation and Technology, Dr. Saji Gopinath, Chief Jury and Past President, Sri Vivek Krishna Govind, Honorary Secretary, Sri Jomon K. George, Past Presidents, members of the Kerala Management Association, students who have been a part of the competitions which have been held by the Kerala Management Association. Friends, it's a great honor and privilege for me to be addressing one of the most dynamic organizations in the state, the Kerala Management Association. I was quite fortunate to be a part of KMA right from my times when I was a member of the Legislative Assembly and right now when I'm a member of the Parliament. I've always been a part of the discussions, constructive debates, and many things that have happened in the KMA premises, not just in the premises, but outside the premises as well. I'm sorry to Mr. Madhavachandran and Rajmohan Nair, when we talk about outside premises, I missed the marathon which happened on Sunday morning. I had to apologize because that was a run which was it started at 6:30 in the morning. So I said I had been I had a very rough week last week, and I've been sleeping, my sleep deficit is quite over, so I made it very clear that I couldn't attend the function. So once again, apologizing for the same. Always when I speak, I always make sure that I don't speak about things which I'm not very clear of. Management to me is all about managing my time, because the program just before this was a very auspicious program. 100-year school was rebuilt by the Rotary Club of District 3201, where I had to arrive a bit late, which is not usually my way of doing things. So Mr. Rajmohan Nair and Mr. Madhavachandran was present for the function. As soon as that, we had to reach for the Kerala Management Association meeting. Before that, I had right before the school inaugural ceremony, I had a meeting with the fishermen community where they are entering into huge agitation. So for me, management is all about managing my time, my schedule, my days, my weeks. So I've always management has different perspectives. So being a politician, I've always said that for me, people speak about everything. I mean, politicians are supposed to speak about everything on the other side. And my friends, my colleagues always, every day in the channels, they speak about. Right now, my colleagues are speaking on the discussion which has been going about the American company which has gathered our waters, the deep sea fishing controversy. A week before that, I think it was something else. And a week before that, maybe it was something related, nothing to politics, but maybe the controversy why our young sportsman, Sanju Samson, was avoided from the Indian team. So these are many different discussions we are unfortunate to become a part of. But I believe that everybody in this room would definitely, and online, would definitely agree on the fact that management has reached a different level in the last year. When the COVID pandemic had struck, we have always, it is a transition period for all of us. We've always been on online platforms. Gatherings have been to this room where it was a jam-packed place where discussions and debates were quite hot. Right now, we are all attending this function from different platforms, different countries, different states, and different districts. So management in that perspective has entered a new different term. So I believe that COVID has sometimes become an opportunity for all of us, where we are able to address people even without seeing them personally, working on online platforms. Our kids have been going to school without physically going there, being taught online with online resources and platforms. There are pros and cons for all these levels, but personally, I believe that management has touched a different level in the COVID pandemic times. And for me personally, when I mentioned about time management, equally, I'm understanding how my wife is managing my daughter, my pets, my maid, and my house together. So this was an unusual scene which I have not witnessed. Since it was COVID, I've got more time spending at home. So I have witnessed such an event also. So all these is a different phases of management. I have many bright young students in front of me from different institutions who have been professionally studying what management exactly is. And we have a bunch of leaders on the dais who actually speaks, and we have the Honorable Vice Chancellor and many other respected dignitaries who would definitely speak on a different perspective about management. But I'm very happy always to be a part of the Kerala Management Association programs, where they have always intervened in constructive, progressive thoughts of our society, where their discussions have been fruitful for building up Cochin, building up Kerala. And I believe that the interventions would continue. Their vision towards building a better society, always a priority, have been established. And I'm very happy, even though in the face of pandemic, in the face of COVID, even though on many different platforms and with a lot of support from people on online platforms, this management week have been a huge success. I'm happy about the same. And I'm also happy to be a part of the function which is happening this evening. I congratulate all the students for the fruitful discussions they've presented on the central budget, which happened a month earlier. I hope that you all had a fruitful presentation, and I wish all the very best for the school students as well as the Management Association office bearers and members for the future successful endeavors. Thank you, Jai.
Thank you so much, Honorable Member of Parliament, Mr. Haibi Eden. You have always been a true friend wherever we were in many of the forums, and KMA was no exception, and it's always continuing to be like that. Thank you so much, and look forward to your continued support. Now, may I request our Senior Vice President, Nirmala Lilly, to formally introduce our guest of honor, Mr. Ajay Prasad, the country Managing Director of Taurus Investment Holdings.
Guest of honor, Mr. Ajay Prasad, keynote speaker, Dr. Sanjeev Governor, past presidents, management committee members, students, all distinguished personalities present here and on virtual platform, warm good evening. Before I get into my official blessing task, I would like to congratulate our Management Week celebrations chairman and our past president, Mr. Raj Mohan Nair, and his team for the impeccable way of organizing marvelous programs. that was par excellence, unique and master professional in the midst of the unconquerable challenges confronting us. I applaud you for your organizing skill, zest, and leadership. I was privileged to introduce the chief guest in the inaugural session, Mr. Harshpati Singhania, Vice Chairman and Managing Director, JK Paper Limited, and Director, JK Organization. Now, yet another opportunity to introduce a renowned speaker, Mr. Ajay Prasad, in this valedictory function. Mr. Ajay Prasad, Country Managing Director, Taurus Investment Holdings. He is a leading private equity real estate investor and developer. Taurus is based in Boston and operates in over 30 markets across 8 countries, including the US, Canada, UK, Germany, Argentina, Turkey, Greece, and India. Since 1976, Taurus has acquired and developed over 55 million square feet of real estate worth over $8 billion. Mr. Ajay has overseen all aspects of Taurus operations in India since the business was established in 2012. Taurus is developing a $500 million portfolio in India with a focus of office and retail anchored mixed-use built-to-core development. Its portfolio includes one of the largest single-phase mixed-use developments in India and involves joint ventures with market leaders like Embassy Group and Asset Homes. Prior to this, he was a senior management role at Taurus. Mr. Ajay has worked at Myanmar, Accenture, and P&G. Our speaker is an alumnus of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology and the Indian Institute of Management at Calcutta and holds an engineering degree from the College of Engineering, Toronto. He currently chairs the Global Real Estate Institute's Global Committee for Future Retail. He is a member of Forbes Real Estate Council and of the International Council of Shopping Centers. Mr. Ajay is a frequent speaker at global real estate conferences and delivers lectures on real estate and graduate programs at the Watson School, MIT, and Harvard University. We are indeed privileged and honored to have a personality with exceptionally outstanding profile. Proudly presenting you, Mr. Ajay Prasad, all the way from Boston. Thank you.
Thank you, Nirmala, for
Nirmala Lily, and also
I hope I'm audible because that obviously is one of the challenges that we have in this very weird world that we live in, and hopefully, we'll not be living in for much longer. I think we're quite all tired of it. Respected MP, my good friend Saji, all the office bearers of KMA who kindly invited me to attend this program, all of the dignitaries on the dais and members who are attending in person and virtually. First of all, thank you for having me. This is a wonderful honor to have the opportunity to speak to so many of you. Many of you are, we've spent decades in the industry in various capacities. So for me, it's sort of trying to, lecture to the professors instead of to the audience. So, but I'll still try and introduce a few new concepts and also keep my remarks as brief as possible, because I can always sympathize being on the other side, sitting in the audience and having a keynote speaker show up and rolling my eyes when it just keeps on going on and on. So let me be brief, and the topic for the day is responsible management, and obviously it is something that one can draw various definitions around. So let me try and start off by trying to draw parallels, if possible, from two very well established concepts in management, and kind of see how that can be sort of applied to this concept. And then maybe I'll try and talk about a couple of very specific aspects that I think are integral to the whole concept of responsible management. Now, Kerala obviously needs no introduction to tourism. And one of the significant concepts that have come up in the last few years in tourism is, of course, the concept of responsible tourism. Now, some of the main tenets of responsible tourism are that it minimizes the negative environmental, social, and cultural impacts of tourism. It generates greater economic benefits to the local community, and improves sort of working conditions for people and access to a tourism industry and so on. It involves local people in decisions that influence their lives and life choices. And it's culturally sensitive, which is very important in tourism. Now, this is obviously a sort of interesting concept to look at when we talk about the principle of responsible management in general. What we have seen over the last few years in all walks of management, in all walks of life, is to look at what we call a double bottom line or a triple bottom line, where it's not just profitability or your revenues that you generate per year that are now becoming yardsticks to measure the success of an organization, but looking at different things like long-term economic sustainability. For example, if you're a fossil fuel company, do you have a future? I mean, in a world that has to move towards sort of a zero carbon future, do you as a fossil fuel company have a future? And one of our partners is Shell, which, as you know, is a large Anglo-Dutch conglomerate that is one of the largest energy companies in the world. It used to be a fossil fuel only company, oil, gas, whatever the heck. But in the last couple of years, and this is something that we work with them on, and I'll speak to it in brief later, they have kind of redefined themselves as an energy company. So they are no longer calling themselves an oil company or a gas company, but saying we are all forms of energy, whether it's hydrogen, whether it's solar, whether it's electric mobility, whatever it be. So that's a different way of looking at strategy, and that's one aspect that you can look at if you're talking about responsible management. Now, another framework, I'm sorry, that is becoming very popular is the ESG framework, which is the environmental, social, and governance criteria that are becoming very popular as a form of evaluating companies. Now, environmental criteria consider how a company performs as a steward of nature and the environment. Social criteria examine how it manages relationships with employees, suppliers, customers, communities, all sorts of stakeholders. And governance deals with the company's leadership, internal controls, transparency, and shareholder rights, for example. Now, this has gone beyond becoming just lip service, because if you look at some of the largest institutional investors in the world, in fact, some statistics say that more than 50% of all institutional investors, the likes of BlackRock and Vanguard and some of the world's largest pension funds and insurance companies, now identify ESG as a critical criteria for investment. So if you're not ESG compliant, you don't get investments, right? So and that's the lifeblood of organizations around the world. So in a sense, this is sort of like a stick investors are telling you, and this is also now becoming very common amongst private investors, retail investors. For example, there are exchange traded funds, ETFs, which allow small investors, retail investors, to specifically invest in companies which satisfy the ESG guidelines. So this is another sort of push for management of entities to become very responsible. But again, as I said in the beginning, being a responsible business does not it should not just be, in fact, that's how I should put it. It should not just be because of a stick, because someone's pushing you. There is a carrot as well, because typically a much more, responsibly led organization performs better, in terms of organizational performance, your traditional measures, but also it's a better organization for its employees, and people are happier, you have better retention, better attract better talent, and so on and so forth. I'll just quote a very brief example from what we are doing. We are a real estate company, and obviously when you use those two words, especially in India, it does not often ring in a very positive tone, because everybody says, oh, but they are a real estate company, as if we are the Italian mob or something. But something that we are doing, which is very different from a lot of our peers, is that we have actually two subsidiaries that look at just sustainability. So these are companies that specifically focus on making sustainable investments within our portfolio. And what we have seen is that these are not just things that we do because we feel socially responsible, but they also make our investments perform better. For example, by saving energy, by reducing operating costs, and so on and so forth. So there is clearly a very tangible argument that can be made for, bringing in principles of sustainable and responsible management into each and every organization. Now, one aspect of responsible management that I like to harp upon is the fact that it has to be very holistic, and it has to look at all possible stakeholders of the company. Now, traditionally we look at customers, promoters, owners, shareholders, and so on and so forth. But what we need to understand is that a company has so many more, stakeholders. Even if you are, an energy company, or you make widgets or whatever it is, you have customers, you have indirect, and so on and so forth. You have the community in which your production facilities are located. So it is very important that a responsible organization has a holistic picture of everyone whose lives they directly and indirectly touch, and bring those considerations into mind when they take decisions. So, for example, if we look at different stakeholders, as you have direct consumers, the people that you sell to. You have indirect consumers who might be, people you are trying to chase, or they might be consuming products that are based on your products or services. And these people are important because, and even generally, if you look at the community, there is a very strong expedient for focusing on this, because you could even argue that general well-being and wealth in the society will reflect upon you as a business, whether it is expanding your markets, or whether it's ensuring that your workforce is more. For example, one of the things that's gaining traction, and it's gained traction in particular after this unfortunate pandemic showed up, is the realization that well-being at the workplace is very important. Now, for the past, let's say 10-15 years, we have all heard of LEED rating, which is the green rating for buildings. Now, buildings are amongst the biggest consumers of energy in the world. About 40% of all energy in the world is consumed by real estate and by the built environment. So LEED rating has been very popular, and there are many LEED rated buildings in Kerala. In fact, India is one of the leading countries in the world in terms of LEED rated space. But in the last couple of years, something called WELL rating has shown up, the International Well Building Council's Well Building Institute's WELL rating, which measures how healthy the environment is for occupants of the building, has gained traction. Now, it's gained exponentially more traction in the last 12 months when everybody's been concerned about how healthy people are or not. But this is again a way for management, and I'm speaking very specifically about real estate, but in general, this is a very interesting way for management of companies, of occupiers, and landlords to see how wellness impacts their occupants. I mean, you could argue that where is that showing up in my bottom line? It shows up because healthier employees show up for work, they're more productive, and therefore it shows up in your bottom line. So it's a very sort of indirect concept, but it can have a very tangible effect. Now, let me just focus on one aspect of responsible management, and that is the use of knowledge as a competitive advantage. Now, what you would imagine is that a responsible organization and its management must be able to not only collect key data points about the business itself and report them, whether it's internally or externally, but it should also be able to continuously gather new knowledge to adapt its existing business lines and to find new lines of business, because everything is changing and the pace of change in the world is much faster now than before. I mean, you look at Tesla. This is a company that did not have any forget existence. The entire concept did not exist a decade or whatever ago, and now Tesla is worth more than pretty much every other car maker put together. So things change, and if organizations do not sort of keep up with the times, then you can, it will be hard pressed for us to refer to your organization as being responsible. Now, this also should be considered as a note of caution against blind, what we call empire building or conglomerate building, which is just diversifying for the sake of diversification or ego or whatever. And there are many examples scattered along the wayside that caution us against this. So if you look at knowledge, then how does a company go about this? Now, there are various sources of knowledge that the business can tap into. For example, internal knowledge, which is from your own R&D and from your market experience. External, by employing research firms and consultants, and potentially even through the acquisition of intellectual property or firms which have that intellectual property. And more importantly, and I'm very glad that we have Dr. Gopinath here, this knowledge can be generated through partnership with universities and R&D institutions and so on and so forth. Interestingly, a lot of us have heard of sort of Silicon Valley and the East Cambridge / Boston cluster of companies. But these came about due to a very simple factor. In the case of Silicon Valley, it was the presence of Stanford University. In the case of East Cambridge and Boston, it was the presence of MIT and Harvard, literally, a mile up and down the Charles River. So knowledge is very important determinant of the success of any organization. And it's incumbent on management to sort of find the best way of bringing knowledge in. Now, applying this to Kerala, I think Kerala is a wonderful opportunity because it has the building blocks in place. There are lots of great R&D institutions, huge amounts of market information that are, about health, about different kinds of consumer trends and so on that are gathered not just by the government, but also by private entities. So there is, data is a new oil, so that's in place. What we need is systematic analysis of this information and for partnerships to be built between industry, academia, and R&D institutions. And I think, Kerala has a lot of advantages. It has a lot of limitations as well. It is not a state that can make a lot of headway in traditional manufacturing industries because, you have density of population, you have the, lack of availability of traditional raw materials. You do not have the ability to set up very large sort of legacy industries. So what it needs to do is to leverage its strength, which is in terms of sort of knowledge and in terms of human resources. And I think this is where, organizations like the KMA can come in and play a central role as an interlocutor between various stakeholder groups, institutions, research firms, the companies in the business community, the community as such, and the government, for example, and also to act as sort of a repository of knowledge, right? Events like this, you have, hundreds of members who can contribute. And I'm actually very encouraged to see that organizations like CII and CREDI, for example, are working with knowledge partners like a JLL to create reports that its members and the general community can bring to the fore. I think the last part of responsible management that I want to talk about is the prioritization of resources. Now, that's an issue that we always face, and I'm sure Mr. Eden understands that much better than the rest of us, because government is one of the entities which has to struggle with scarce resources and allocating that scarce resources. And I think one point that I would make before I sign off is, for example, to look at something that is where Kerala is a laggard, which is infrastructure. And we're making some progress in the last 10 years. You have the metro coming up, and road development, ports, and so on and so forth, and airports. But I think it's very critical, for example, for the government to look at various proposals with a very dispassionate eye, and look at, I wouldn't call it return on investment, but at least a social return on investment, and to avoid getting involved into projects where either it's such a long term, or where the potential benefits, tangible and intangible, are so intangible that it is not worth spending money on. And I think this is where industry needs to work with the government. I think public-private partnership has to be honestly two-way, where industry provides, if forcefully if need be, feedback to the government, and where the government is receptive to such feedback. So I think that is an important concept of responsible management, and responsible management does not need to be confined to companies. It also needs to be something that the public sector needs to inculcate as well. So if I might conclude, I would define responsible management as something that needs to be broad-based in terms of involving every single stakeholder group, and continuously reevaluating that, bringing in new stakeholder groups and understanding their needs and aspirations. I think it has to be comprehensive in terms of transparency and business strategy. It has to be long-term in nature, because tactical decision making is, for me, it's reactive. It's not proactive. It's not truly what management is about. It has to be based on partnerships, and this has to be, various partnerships across various kinds of organizations. And in the end, it has to be centered on knowledge, because that saying has been done to that data is the new oil, but it is. It is, information is power, and knowledge is how you create competitive advantages, because everybody can make a better widget, but understanding what widget is required 5 years before it is needed, and adapting to that is where you have an Apple, or you have a Tesla standing out, where much bigger legacy competitors have fallen by the wayside. So that's how I would conclude. I apologize for the Zoom bomber that I have in my company, but so once again, I think this is an exciting and truly necessary field, where I think all sorts of stakeholders, especially organizations like KMA, can come in. And I think it is truly essential for a state like Kerala to succeed over the long term. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ajay Prasad. That was indeed a different take, a more comprehensive approach towards responsible management. Your tips on the collaborative partnership based on knowledge is well taken by both public sector and private sector, I'm sure. Thank you so much. And I understand that you got to leave for another meeting right now. So let me just share a memento which is coming your way. It will come to you. It is not a real-time, it's not an online one, it's a real-time memento. This is the one which is a proof of you speaking here today. This is a typical signature memento of KMA curated for you. It will be coming your way. Thank you so much for sparing your time amidst your busy schedules and being with us. And thank you for enlightening us with your take on responsible management. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Now we move on to the real knowledge man, the new Vice Chancellor of the new university. But before we listen to him, let us hear a bit about him from his close friend and our past president of KMA, Mr. S.R. Nair, introducing Dr. Saji Gopinath.
Hello. Hello.
The new Congress. And I think we need to see that that happens, and you people, personalities like you, take over the mantle and take it forward. And we are very, very eagerly looking forward to such a situation. I'm here to introduce a very good friend of mine, Professor Dr. Esg Framework. Currently, he is the Vice Chancellor of the Kerala University of Digital Sciences, Innovation and Technology. In common parlance, we call it as Kerala Digital University. Okay, I'll go through a little bit of his CV and then conclude. Professor Dr. Esg Framework is from Trivandrum. He did his engineering from College of Engineering, his MTech from Indian Institute of Sciences, Bangalore, and his doctoral thesis and his PhD from Indian Institute of Sciences, Bangalore. In between, he had worked in LNG, ONGC, and similar other organizations. The area of his research is operations, quantitative methods, and project management. Later to that, after having some industry experience, he became the professor at NIT Calicut, and that was the time IIM has come into being, and he joined IIM at the inception of IIM itself, and it is more than close to about 20 years that is part of IIM. During his tenure, he was, in addition to being the professor, the Dean Development as well as the Dean Academic Affairs. In between, he has taken leave to direct to organization that is CAPME, that is Nearby Memorial Institute of Management at Manipal, as well as the Management School of Bennett University at Delhi. It is at this time the government of Kerala has actually extended an invitation to him to chair or the head Kerala Startup Mission. And he had left the academic field on leave to Kerala government, and he has taken over Kerala Startup Mission. And boy, we have seen what has happened to Kerala subsequent to Esg Framework having taken over the Kerala Startup Mission. It is one of the largest startup mission in the startup ecosystem in the country. In fact, in terms of number, it could be third largest, but it has been receiving awards every year of its service as the best ecosystem, startup ecosystem in the country, continuously for 3 years. And he was also parallelly the director of Indian Institute of Indian Institute of Technology and Management, Kerala, based at Trivandrum, which is now upgraded to Kerala Digital University or Kerala University for Digital Sciences, Innovation and Management. Okay. Esg has been part of very many consulting assignments, including the World Bank, UN, State Stock Trades, many of this. He has, during his, because of his performance here in Kerala Startup Mission, he was given, KMA has given the IT Technology Man of the Year Award. Thai Kerala has given him the award as the best ecosystem builder for the startup. Calicut Management Association has given the award, and he has 2 years consequently has received the top ecosystem builder award from the government of India. Okay, and a person fundamentally his concept thinking is very high. Clarity of communication and clarity of endeavor, including his execution, has been very high. In fact, I have another direct connect is that, Esg Framework is the person who had actually proliferated the thinking of Blue Ocean strategy within Kerala, and he has applied the very Blue Ocean strategy tenets to his organization, Kerala Startup Mission, and I'm very sure he will be applying that into Kerala Digital University as well. Okay, now I must say he has there are publications, so many things to his credit. I must stop, but I have no hesitation to say that Professor Dr. Esg Framework is the best thing that has happened to Kerala. Okay, and I seriously look forward to Professor Esg Framework, okay, opening Kerala and lifting up us Mallus in the brave new world of technology, management, and research of a world-class university. I hereby present to you Professor Dr. Esg Framework.
Thank you, SRG, for such a exaggerated and introduction. I don't reserve even 10% of what he said. Thank you very much for that. Honorable President, Mr. Madhav Chandran, Honorable Chief Guest, Honorable MP, Mr. Haibi Eden, my good friend Ajay Prasad, other dignitaries. It's a privilege to speak again at KMA, and I thank KMA for inviting me again to speak on this in this very, very August occasion. I will like to share a small PPT, not because I have too many things to share, because for the last 1 week we had such a wonderful ideas, and the person who speaks the last, most of the things which you want to speak are already been spoken, much well articulated by others. It's like a guard in a train, that the engine already has been moving so fast, you are basically there only to flag it to on it. So I just share a small PPT, and with the President's permission, I would slightly deviate from the discussion so far by looking at a slightly different angle on the responsible management. We heard an excellent talk yesterday and again today from Ajay about the way the organizations have to relook at the management and the way they have to actually start behaving responsibly, looking at the larger ecosystem, the ecological part of it, the environment part of it, related to that, the various elements of it. Moving from the large management citizen or an organization citizen, I would like to spend some time on the individual, and primarily because I'm really afraid. I'll tell you why I'm afraid. I'll share that as I proceed. And I believe that when we are leaving this whole week, it's also important for us to think about some of the things which might happen, which may affect each of us in the days to come, and how we will actually take those wise words which people have spoken in the last 1 week and help us to tide over that and both work in our work and in profession. So we heard Ajay speaking about the triple bottom line, the PPP, the people, planet, and the profit, which profit comes at the last, and how the responsible managers actually ensure the focus on the people and planet can actually result in profit. Yesterday, Mr. Shivkumar spoke excellently well on how the earlier generation of entrepreneurs has actually made this really possible through the philanthropic work, developing community around us and things like that. And we know that the whole responsible management, which has been conceived by Mr. Madhav Chandran and the team, look at very, very comprehensive dimensions, looking at the future, the developing the skilled and employable professionals, looking at the future, creating diversity and inclusivity inside the workspace, ensuring concern for the society, and also to keep the values of the nation intact when you are doing the decisions. Now, these are all extremely important, and I'm sure that this talks have given us a greater insight to that. But now let's look at specifically on this concept which we all speak today about the pandemic. And when you look at Management Week and beyond, or pandemic and beyond, I think we are at the time when we are about to revive, and it's already revival is happening. Now, if you take the data, we know that the pandemic has taken us all by surprise. At the same time, it also took our businesses down. The economic growth has gone down. But we know that even we are now looking at a revival. The Government of India projects that next year, obviously with the current level, from the current level, you are expecting a growth of around 11–12% in the next year. The GDP growth is going to go up by that percentage. Now, this is happening across the world, even globally, from a -3.2%, there is going to be a growth which is happening. But the challenge is that this growth is slightly frightening. That's precisely the point which I would like to dwell upon maybe in 10 minutes as a thought for us to leave. I just took the past data. I took 100 years back, because the similar pandemic or a pandemic happened sometime in 1920. And if you see this period, which happens after that, that is basically where the world has witnessed the worst time in the world, the deep depression, which was actually the aftermath of a pandemic, then a growth, and then a huge depression which happened. And if you go back and look at what is the reason for that, it's as simple as the irresponsible management which people have done at that point of time. Now, this is primarily because at the end, organization is also being driven by individuals, and individual goals are very, very important for people. And when you are being driven by the individual goals, naturally, many times the principles which have to drive us, we actually taken a backseat. And we started adopting methods which we try to gain from a short-term benefits. Now, will that happen? Let's look at that. Now, if this is the point which I was trying to stress, we had in the past a short period of depression, just like what's happening today. But then there is a deep period of depression. And it is in the deep period of depression where a large-scale unemployment happened in most part of the world. Not the Spanish flu. It is the depression which happened in America and then spread to other part of the world. And in a connected world, something like that happen again, you will have a problem. Now, if you look at a very recent article by Fortune in December 2020, the Fortune is wondering why, when a large number of people, when pandemic started, there's a crash happened in US. But even when it spreads much more, which created problems, the growth has still not happened. Why is it there is a different sentiment in the stock market which is happening? And alternatively, we all start believing that with the vaccine being come out in a very fast pace, with government spending, I'm not speaking about Indian government, but I'm speaking globally, the fiscal spending happening, there is a substantive focus on revival in a very short period. And should we be concerned about it? I think we should be. Because if you look at the stock markets across the world, be it the American stock market, be it the Japanese stock market, be it the Indian stock market, be it the Chinese stock market, all of them are actually showing an abnormal growth. Those of you, especially management process who work in this area, if you started looking at what was happening in 2000 in US markets, we actually see a very similar trend happening in everything. So much so that the Schiller from World Economic Forum says that there is a second financial pandemic in the offing. And that can actually be extremely costly for us. And if you compare that, the two pictures which I showed you earlier, you just expand it, you actually get the second picture. It's not exactly parallel, but it's very, very similar. What happened in the early years of last century is actually, to some extent, it is repeating over here. But obviously, we know that we can never predict failures, we can never predict depressions, but the leading indicators are there that we may soon see a very fast recovery, the K model, which people used to say, where the many sectors, and I'm sure that all of us who are affected by the pandemic are all looking forward to that. We are very happy to do that. But when an economy is going to heat up because of very fast activities, when you see that the spending which has not happened all these years, at least all this period, suddenly is unlocked, and there is going to be huge growth which happened, the stock market or the external market started growing really, really fast. And that may be an unsustainable growth. When you speak about unsustainability, we many times think only from an ecological point of view. We think about an environmental point of view. But unsustainability is also about the unsustainability in the business level. And that is something which we need to be concerned about. Now, what causes depressions? And depressions were there always throughout the world, right from the tulips, which was maybe in 1600s onwards. It's a greed. It's a individual objective beyond the societal objectives. It is the individual's penchant for getting short-term gains, which many times leads to this sort of abnormal gains as such. the .com, the financial meltdown, all these are clear indications of that. I'm not speaking as a devil's advocate, and I'm sure that many of us are looking for the revival. I'm not saying the revival is going to have a negative impact, but what I mean to say is that the revival can actually lead to a fast, unsustainable growth, and the principles of responsible management, which has been discussed in the last 1 week, is going to be extremely relevant. And the last point which the KMA has put, creating and looking at values, is very important, because this has to become innate in each manager's, each decision makers, each future manager's actions, if you wanted to, we wanted to ensure that this sort of another depression may not happen in front of us. So how do you do that? That is basically where I think we need to strengthen the core value system. And that is something which I think we are doing. All these sessions which looked at various different aspects of the management and the activities an organization should do, discussed on that. The individual ethical aspects of it become the next stage as such. In fact, after 2008 financial meltdown, the Harvard University has started a course called Leadership and Corporate Accountability, and we actually adopted that course in IIM when I was part of the IIM, and there we actually started looking at the behavior of individual managers, and we found that many times managers don't know how to manage prosperity. When the prosperity happens, many times they take the decisions which are extremely counterproductive in a long run. And that is something where the responsible management principles becomes important. And I'm not going to reiterate the thing, because I'm sure that it's all been known to us. In the last 1 week, we were speaking about it by multiple speakers. But imbibe them, be a part of the habit, is something which we need to look at. And specifically for the students and academics here, some of you know that when the financial meltdown happened in 2008, people started going back to the 2007, 2008, they went back to the management curricula and asked this question that, is there something wrong in the management curricula which actually being counterintuitive to or counterproductive to what is being done? They found that yes, and that's basically where the principle of responsible management actually came into existence, which actually looks at many of the elements which we discussed, which has been the focus of KMA for this year, and which is for the focus of the management education this year. The purpose, the value systems, the methods in which you actually imbibe and learn management, the research which you do to ensure that the past don't get repeated, the past mistakes are getting addressed, the partnerships which you make, which Ajay spoke about, how do we actually do that in the context of an academia industry, and the dialogue which we are doing today and in the last 1 week. And I'm very happy to see that the KMA has taken a very leadership role in promoting many elements of responsible management education in this all throughout the year, and specifically during this management convention. And I believe that all of us attending this session, either physically or virtually or through YouTube or Facebook later, are actually being enlightened by so many wise words and wise counsels being given by so many experts. And that will help us to ensure that we will go and lead a sustainable development. So let me end by saying that we are in the brink of a recovery. There are enough signs across the world to say that there is a recovery is going to happen. But recovery in the past has always seen that every trough actually goes for a V model of growth or a fast model of growth. And that fast model of growth is good, but when you start going to bet on that, when you are going to start gaining on that, when you are going to take it from an external gains without strong fundamentals, that's where somebody started buying a huge volumes of Bitcoins recently become a news. So such sort of things can actually create a major disruption in the days to come. And whether the recovery will determine whether we win or not is how we use it. And to me, the whole responsible management discussions are about that. If an individual becomes responsible, the individual imbibes the principles of responsible management, then the organization he or she leads will follow the suit. Thank you very much for a patient listening. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Sajid Govinad. It couldn't have been better. You know, the finale of this Management Week celebrations, really dealing with the topic, spearheading responsible management. You did so well to explain whatever you could actually as far as this particular principle which we are trying to propagate is concerned. And we couldn't have asked for more. Thank you so much, Dr. Sajid Govinad. And we are so proud that you being in the managing committee and you being a guiding force for the managing committee this year, it's indeed a proud moment for all of us that we've taken over as the new Vice Chancellor. As Rajmohan said, once again, a hearty congratulations from all of us at KMA when you take up this new assignment, and let us look forward to responsible management being propagated and educated at various levels, you know, with you also being there, and SRS profited actually about you taking Kerala to a different platform altogether, and all the very best for that. And please stay on for 5 more minutes because our students are here, the winners of the contest are here. They would like you to be present there when they are receiving the citations from our Honorable Member of Parliament here. Please stay on so that, you know, you can be there for 5 minutes, and we'll give you that memento also. At least show the memento to you before it comes to you, even though you are part of our family. Please stay on, sir. Yes, over to our jury chairman, Vivek Krishna Govind, to declare the results of the B School Challenge of KMA, which was done as part of the Management Week celebrations, this year's B School Challenge results. Past President Vivek Krishna Govind was the jury chairman. We had Honorary Secretary Jomon George and Executive Director Lieutenant Jojo Jacob as the members of the jury, and they have been toiling hard to pick up those 6 finalists from the 20 B School, different and multiple entries. And here we have the winners being announced. I'm sure Vivek will have a few words to talk about the selection process too. Over to you, Vivek.
Past presidents and guest of honor and keynote speaker. I think coming in to speak immediately after Dr. Sajid, whether it is physical or virtual, it is quite an audacious task, and phenomenal. Last 1 week has been absolutely brilliant. The quality of speakers, and I think probably 1,000 to 2,000 delegates have attended all the events put together, and what we have takeaways from each of the sessions have been absolutely brilliant, including the session which we've all been very, very happy to be a part of. Moving on to the event which we had, this was the first time that we organized an event of this nature. It was a B School competition, which was on the virtual space. We were not very sure initially when our Honorary Secretary Jomon came up with the idea. We weren't very sure to what extent how effective it would be, but the response has been really good. More than 50 participants given their initial entries, pruned down to around 20, and thereafter shortlisted to 6 of the best presentations which were sent. And then we had a very detailed presentation opportunity where all of you came and your teams presented about the various aspects. And I must say, as a finance professional, I was very happy and very, very proud of all of you, in fact, seated here, to see the quality of your presentations on various aspects, considering that all of you are management students. I must appreciate that you have delved into great detail about various aspects, including taxation, and macroeconomic aspects, and very many avenues within the 20-odd minutes which were given to you to make your presentations. Very impressive. Some of you who have, who are also very worthy winners, but some of your presentations, there were a few, let me say, scope for improvement. And in some of your other cases, there was also a little bit of network and bandwidth issues, which also unfortunately did not allow you to perform to the best of your potential. So with these words, let me very proudly announce the winners and request our chief guest and Member of Parliament to hand over the certificates. So first, let me start with the Jury Appreciation Award. We have 3 winners and the Jury Appreciation Award. The Jury Appreciation Award, a special mention award, goes to SCMS School of Technology and Management, represented by Ashwin Anil, Alisha Annaya, Remya Padmakumar, and Radla.
Yes.
The next award winners for the third position are from the St. Gates Institute of Management, represented by Jeevan Jose, Aisha Bibi, Roshan Thomas, and Naina.
Both of them together. Let them come and join us here. Right.
Yes.
Photo. Yes. Thank you very much. Congratulations.
The second prize winners are from XIME Kochi, represented by Priyanka, Vidya, and Sunita.
Congratulations. Please stop. Give it together. Congratulations.
And the winners, the first prize, most deserving team from SCMS Cochin School of Business, Kevin Brown, Lord Savior, and Roman Douglas.
Let's come together. Only close. Please. These are, can you go all the winners together? All the winners together. We can sit there and we will back. Okay, come. Can you see this? Come. Go back.
While dignitaries are sitting down, let me use the opportunity to thank our secretary, and our ED was also part of the jury, Captain Jojo Jacob, and of course, the man behind the whole show was our honorary secretary, Jomo George, and President started off with a very inspiring words towards the start of the competition, and of course, finally, all of this is part of a much larger grand plan which has been initiated by management being chair.
Thank you, Vivek. Congrats, winners. Thank you, Vivek, and congratulations to the winners.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yes.
It's okay. Frame is okay.
Mask light. Okay.
One second.
All the very best.
All the best.
Thank you, Vivek, and thank you, the entire team of winners, and thank you, Dr. Saji. And here is your memento. May I just flash that memento once. It will be coming to you.
This is the third or fourth time.
Yeah, you'll be getting it. It's a signature memento for Dr. Saji Govida. Thank you so much for being here and enlightening us more on our well-studied theme for the year, spearheading responsible management. And you did what was asked for you, the icing on the cake for this week-long celebrations, the Management Week celebrations. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us, and once again, wish you all the very best. And now we are ending this session with the formal vote of thanks. We have Honorary Secretary Jomon K. George present there. For a change, Jomon, you can actually announce the memento for our chief guest here, and it will be given physically, so that there is something physical also. It is not that we are only showing an online thing. Okay.
All right.
Over to you, Jomon. Over to you.
Thank you, President. May I do the pleasantries first, with your permission? Honorable Member of Parliament, Hybe Eden, fondly our Hybe, a youth icon, man of the masses, boy next door. We run short of adjectives when we talk about our beloved Hybe. Industrious son of an illustrious father, and who's daring in these days of COVID when everyone is confined, traveling across his constituency and for the welfare of the masses. Extremely nice to have you, Hybe sir, in our midst this evening as we round up the whole week-long management week celebrations. So before I propose a formal word of thanks, may I request the Secretariat to hand over the memento to be handed over to our chief guest, Hybe Eden. Request President to do the honors.
This is what we have been talking about, the memento which is being couriered to everybody. At least we could give it to the chief guest of the valedictory session. All yours. This is the real proof of being here.
So good evening to all of you. As the curtain falls over the Management Week celebration, good evening to all of you. As the curtain falls over our Management Week celebration.
Go ahead, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Yeah. I'm here to propose a vote of thanks, a formal vote of thanks for the dignitaries who are present with us today, physically and virtually, and for all those who made it possible to have this Management Week celebrations with a wide variety, widespread of reach of activities, and which I'm doing on behalf of the President, the Managing Committee, and all at KMA with a great sense of satisfaction and complacence. It was a very difficult task to plan this in these times of COVID, where it's very difficult to get together, get people on board. But then we conceived this dream on a very perilous, difficult horizon. And we're happy that we could do it in a very excellent fashion. We thank Almighty for bringing all these possibilities together. And today we had the glittering presence of our beloved Hybe Eden, Honorable Member of Parliament, who has been there, has been a friend of KMA, a great support for KMA, a guide, a philosopher whom we look forward to when it comes to the activities in dealing with corporates. So, and he delivered a speech which is quite focused, befitting for the occasion, which is unique of him. And therefore, on behalf of all of us here, Hybe sir, we express our deep sense of gratitude for your presence, seeking your continued patronage. Mr. Ajay Prasad, the global investment icon, advising corporates on global investments, that's in real estate or whatever you call it is related to investments. We have a completely different approach, took a different approach to the valedictory session, and with a brilliant roundup, giving us a guidance as to how we should sail forward in these changing times and how to strategize when it comes to investments and what management organizations like KMA, how we should position ourselves to be of better service to the stakeholders across. Thank you, Mr. Ajay Prasad, for your wonderful words and presence. And Dr. Saji Gopinath, what to say, in a very, very short span of time, the academician in him came to the fore and then did that short presentation, bringing the global perspective, running through the historical evolution of what has happened after the Big Depression, the earlier pandemic, and how related that to the theme, which is very passionate, very close to the heart of our president. Every one of us came a responsible management. As things get better, greed should not take a front seat. Greed should be set aside, and the responsible managers and management should take the way forward so that corporates have the human face, corporates have concern for the environment, inclusive growth, all that you covered in a short span of time. And thank you so much for being with us. We have had many occasions where I supported KMA, and wish you all the very best in your new role. You are an icon of innovation and technology for the state, and I'm sure that your experience would bring a total new perspective to the students who are becoming part of the university. Thank you for your continued association with KMA, sir. We are honored. And quickly to run through the management week, let me start by thanking the IMA president who started the inaugural session, Harshpati Singhania, and on day 2, we had the run which was flagged off by our respected Kochasep Chitlapalli with the president. Thank all the people who participated in that virtual run, which turned out to be a real hit, and media embraced it and gave good coverage Thanks to the media also for that. Then the B School Challenge, we had a lot of teams. Shortlisting was a big pain, very difficult, and Vivek and we could do it together. And we're happy that all the winners turned out today. Congratulations to all of you, and a big thank you to Vivek and the Secretariat Jojo, and congratulations to the students. And now you know that we are very keen on engaging you and empowering you as management students, as managers of the future. So therefore, please stay glued to KMS activities with that. Once again, a big thank you to all of you. Then the Management Student Convention under Mr. Anil Verma's captaincy turned out to be a huge hit. Thank all of them who made it possible, all the speakers. I'm not going to reiterate the names once again, but recall with great gratitude that we could make it a grand success. Then the memorial lecture yesterday, MV Piley memorial lecture, commemorating the life and times of the management guru, the one who started management movement in the state of Kerala. MV Piley was commemorated, and Shiv Prasad's presentation, again, like Saji sir's presentation today, turned out to be a completely different thing, and aligning and coining with so much to the theme of the week or theme of KMA this year, responsible management. Big thank you to the speakers there who were there yesterday. We are nair for bringing up Mr. Shivakumar and this valedictory session, which is, as Madhav rightly said, it's a real icing on the cake. When we conclude something, when we said that all good things have to come to an end, today we are rounding up. We are extremely grateful to everyone out there, the managing committee members, the people who worked, the secretariat, the media who gave brilliant coverage, 20 plus speakers, large number of students, members who stayed glued all through this week. And of course, in the run as well, physically participated and made this endeavor of KMA an inclusive one, a participative one, and we stand honored and we stand complacent, and we stand greatly thankful to every one of you out there, and to all those who made this week so much of a wonderful success, which we felt that it really deserves in these times of adversity. So we going ahead, KMA is committed to engage its members in the difficult times, whether it's COVID or not. We have that slogan of saying that we shall overcome. So let's say focused, stay determined, but at the same time, stay safe. Wish you all the very best. Good night. God bless every one of you. Over to you, President. Thank you so much. President, you have to unmute.
Thank you so much, Jomon, for that eloquent vote of thanks. And let me especially thank those partners who have joined hands with us to make this program a huge success. Sarah, the title sponsors for Management Week celebrations. And of course, HAIL, the title sponsor for KMA Run, and our silver partner, Medivision. All these three partners will be there for the entire year with us. That is how we have worked out the partnerships for commercial tie-up with us. And so it is really thankful to all these three partners who have made this program into a grand success. Thank you so much once again. And all of you audience, delegates online as well as in the physical form here, thank you so much for being there all throughout these 7 days and making our celebrations a grand success. And once again, thank you all. And let us look forward to even better events in the times to come. And keep watching the notifications on WhatsApp, email, and SMS from KMA, and join with us in all our endeavors to make spearheading responsible management a huge success. Thank you so much. Let us all look forward to a better tomorrow when this pandemic is not going to upset us anymore. Be safe, travel safe if you're at home, at your office, at home. Good night. And this meeting is adjourned, and this annual